Hello, Tad Hargrave from Marketing for Hippies here in my living room. And today I want to talk about the 3 levels of an ideal client, or of a target market rather. 3 levels of a target market. And this is where I think so many entrepreneurs get this wrong, in putting things in the wrong order, putting too much importance on things that aren't important, and vice versa. So before I get into it, if you like my videos, feel free to share them, of course, and you can click subscribe on YouTube, then hit the little bell icon, and it'll tell you when I put a new video out. You'll get somehow you'll get a notification. And if you're watching this on Facebook, you can like my page. There you go. Okay, so here's the graph. Let me just hold this up for a bit. I came up with this on my own because I just didn't see anything like it. But what I realized one day is when most people talk about target markets, they're talking about demographics, meaning the outer things, the things you can tell just by looking at somebody, or at least have a sense of. Yeah, you could make a pretty strong guess, based on their behavior. Goes to church once a week, that's a demographic. Buys chocolate once a week, that's a demographic. Their income, ethnic background, height, et cetera, et cetera. There's all sorts of things you can tell just by looking from the outside. You could, but just because somebody goes to church once a week, we don't know that the psychographic is true, which is that they're religious. So the psychographics are the inner things, the values, the worldview, the beliefs, and just because they buy chocolate once a week doesn't mean that they love chocolate. We could guess, but maybe they're buying the chocolate for somebody else. Maybe they go to church to impress somebody, and it's not really any devotion inside their heart. So these are different. And then the bullseye is the issue. So here's the thing I want to point out. In most cases, this is inverted. And when I say, who's your target market? Well, it's black males ages 40 to 50 who live in the Seattle area making $150,000 or more per year. You know what I'm saying? Everything I just said, that's a demographic. But so what? Okay, you've named it very clearly who the people are, but what are you going to do? What's the issue? And that's the big thing. So I would say the demographic is like 1%. Then you can do a target market with no demographics at all. But it's icing on a cake, as I often say. Icing is delicious, so let's not knock it. But it's very, very little of the thing. Then there are the psychographics. This is much more interesting. That's one ring in. And I put that at 9%. These are completely made up numbers by me, by the way. But the psychographics meaning, how do they see the world? Because if you said, okay, all the demographics I just said, or we said, okay, well, white hippies in their 40s living in Edmonton, white males ages in their 40s living in Edmonton, that's all demographics. But hippies, well, now that's a psychographic, that's not you could look and guess somebody's a hippie, but hippie's a thing in your heart, or vegan, that's another worldview, or Christian, or Muslim, or Buddhist, or psychographics are much more interesting. Why though? Because for the demographics, what are the hubs? There aren't always hubs. Old folks homes, okay. There's a few, daycare centers, possibly. But the most interesting hubs are often the psychographics. For example, storyteller would be a psychographic, or a kind of it's a profession. So in some ways, it's a demographic, but there's a whole worldview around storytelling. So, maybe that's more of a demographic. But the distinction between these two things becomes very important. Right. And here's what I could say actually is within the profession of storytelling, you would have a lot of different psychographics. People who think, well, we should look at stories psychologically. We should look at the archetypes in them. Somebody else might say, no. Stories are meant to be interpreted historically primarily. Another person might say, no, they're a cultural lens. Another person might say that they're just fun. We don't think about it too much. You see what I'm saying? There are going to be a lot of different beliefs, worldviews about even storytelling within a community. And people get together. What are a lot of Facebook groups except this? A bunch of people who see the world in a similar way coming together. So that's about 9%, but 90% of it is this bullseye, is the issue. So this is the island A to island B that I talk about all the time. This is they have a problem, some symptoms they don't like, there's a result that they're craving that they want. That tension between those two, that's the issue. And that is almost all of it. So I'll make the case here. If I were to say I help people overcome allergies to their pets, you know if you're in that group or not. Yeah. And it's a good target market because there's probably a lot of them who could afford to pay you. And you know, there are places you can find pet owners. Certainly there are hubs. So it meets the 3 criteria of a good target market. But it's also, boy, that issue is just so clear. And there's a lot to say about the nature of the issue in my ebook, The Art of Relevance. I talk a lot about the whole Island A, Island B, that's in that book. But it should be urgent. It should be it means something to people. They actually really want that problem solved. They really want the result, not just like, that'd be nice. But if you were to articulate that issue, you notice what I'm saying. We didn't say any psychographics necessarily. We didn't say any demographics, just pet owners. They have a pet and they're allergic to the pet. I mean, in some ways, maybe that's a demographic, but again, that's just 1%. Most of it is this. I help people overcome migraines. Okay, now literally all we've said is the issue. And yet that might be enough for somebody to want to buy with you. But if all you do is say the demographics, you know, you're at a networking event, somebody says, what do you do? Oh, well, I work with single white women ages 60 to 70. You have no idea what the hell they do. So when we're looking at a target market, there are 3 levels. The outer level, that's the demographics. The middle level, that's the psychographics, but the thing to focus on in your target market to make sure you have that you can't have a good target market without it, basically, is the issue. What's the issue that they're struggling with, that they need help with, that you'd like to help them with? Hopefully that video is useful. If you have any questions, please put them below in the comments, and maybe it'll turn into the next video that I do. Hope you're doing well. Take care, everyone.